Reality After Show viewers, listeners, fans of ours, Dan Montchal, myself, Matt Bischoff from Survivor Caramo. And I don't know what it ranks in seasons of popularity or not. Probably not very popular. I don't like the fact that I played a fans versus favorites season. Am I grateful I played Survivor? Yes. Do I wish I would have played an all newbie season like the one we're watching right now? Yes. Johnny Fairplay, if you're wondering where Johnny is, he is somewhere in
Charlottesville, Virginia.
Charlottesville, Virginia, doing a viewing party with the Queen, amongst others. He was sending Dan and I pictures of one of our patrons. It's their 21st birthday. Totally awesome that you would spend it with the most notorious villain in reality television history, Johnny Fairplay. So yes, Dan and I are holding down the fort tonight. Alex Trias, who is our other partner in crime, is like sick. I don't know if he has COVID. I don't know if he has genital warts. I don't know if he has like a boil on his anus that is leaking, that he can't be here and sit in a chair for very long, but he is unable to be in the podcast tonight. However,
it's definitely 2 or 3.
It's definitely 2 or 3. So, Dan, overall first impression, I had a lot of emotions, ups and downs during this penultimate episode. Johnny's favorite word, the penultimate episode, which is the episode before the finale. I loved the episode. I actually felt some tears of, oh no, Carolyn's going home. Oh no, this sucks. But it had me on the edge of my seat. How about, what's your first fucking reaction?
Agreed. I went into it because, when we got the preview or next time on Survivor last week, it was saying Carolyn, and I took that as, well, we see this all the time. That's rarely the person who goes home. And even as the episode was going through, Carolyn's name is out there a bunch, sure, but I never really thought that she was in danger. Even that last segment heading up to Tribal, but Jam Jam's answers and how they were talking in Tribal, I had me second guessing myself. I was like, oh, I'm wrong. Like, she's going here, because you could tell that it was kind of pulling at his emotion, his heartstrings a bit. So I thought right up until we saw those last few Jamie votes, I thought Carolyn was gone.
I did too. And is that the beauty of editing?
Probably.
You know what I mean? Because like, obviously we're not out there, but the way the entire episode kind of was shown to us, and you have this tribal council where Carolyn is like, is this my exit speech or whatever she says, I was like, oh God, I was literally like out on my patio. It's a beautiful night here in Cincinnati. And I was tearing up like, oh my God, please don't go, Carolyn. Please don't go. Please don't go. Please don't go. She's going. The whole edit is showing that she's going. She's going. She's going. And when she didn't go, I was like celebrating, like, holy crap. I cannot believe that she stayed. I feel that this is the nail in the coffin personally for Jam Jam, because the whole episode, he knows he has to play a game to where he wins and he should vote out someone that's his like number one. And it's easier said than done. However, I feel that, I don't know, I feel like we're going to have a battle between Carson and Carolyn at the end. And I'm fine, honestly, if either one of them win. And I love Jam Jam, but I think Lauren has zero chance. I don't think she's been edited very well.
Mm-hmm.
But man, they threw me for a loop in this edit tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on 2 things that you said there. First, I thought, and maybe it was just the beauty of editing, how they, kind of showed us everything at Tribal Council. Because even as Jam Jam's giving some of his answers, I was like, well, maybe that's just, he's really playing it up, so no one, to give Lauren and Jamie like comfort that, hey, I'm with you, I'm doing the hard thing. But what got me was that scene after, when Jeff was like, oh, I'll go tally the votes, was Jam Jam wouldn't look at her. And that's what really like sealed it for me. I was like, oh, wow, like he did it. And I understand his thought process of we need to get Carolyn out, like, especially when we start chronologically and everything that she does, like in the very beginning of the episode. But for me, I didn't see where it made sense to cut her right here, simply because then it puts Jam Jam and Carson in the minority.
Yeah.
And I don't think Carolyn's someone that you really have to worry as this immunity threat. Now, she could win one and it wouldn't surprise me all that much, but it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense they spent this entire time kind of saving this Tika 3 to then, as soon as where they get some type of advantage, to immediately cut one of their members. For me, it would have made more sense for him to think about making this move like the next tribal council.
And that's probably what went down because, like you said, it is a beautiful thing that the Tika 3 have stayed together and voted together. And if they go to the end together, that's a pretty phenomenal feat because, as we know, in the new era of Survivor, alliances sometimes are not these from beginning to end alliances. We have voting blocks and people jumping from alliance to alliance. So the fact that these people are staying loyal to one another, as we see tonight, is pretty freaking awesome. And it is a matter of like emotion versus brains of we're playing a game. And we keep seeing them say like, Jam Jam's like, if I was at home on the couch and I watched this, I would be screaming at the TV, like, do this, do this, do this. And I'm very glad that Jam Jam did not vote Carolyn's name down because I love her. I actually messaged her just a little, as Johnny would say, peek behind the curtain. I sent her an Instagram message the other day, and I said, just want to say how much I love you on Survivor. Fair Play and I do a podcast and love talking about you every week. I hope you win. We'll see you around, I'm sure. And she's like, oh, thank you. I will listen to y'all's now, LOL. I have listened before, but was scared during my season because she doesn't like listening to people, kind of rag on her.
We've talked you up, girl.
Yeah. And then she was like saying how her dad's usually will send her, hey, here's some podcasts to listen to. So I was truthful when I said, like, even Fair Play, myself, you, Alex, we love Carolyn, and it's really one of the most genuine players. And I don't know who said it. I think Lauren said tonight, like, Carolyn, I've never seen a player like her before. And I'm trying to think of like who we've seen in the past that even compares to the type of player that she is. She's a beautiful player and a beautiful person, and I hope she wins the whole thing.
Yeah, it's for me, I'm just really happy because, I'm not going to come here and say that 44 is the greatest season ever. I think it's a lot better than what we've been getting. Yes. But it's finally a story that makes sense, assuming that one of the Tika 3 wins. Yeah. Because that's been the story this entire time. We're going into finale night where there's 5 people left, and it makes sense the 3 of the people winning. I still don't think we have much of a story of Heidi or Lauren winning, but I guess weirder things have happened. The only thing I will say is, Matt, I'm not sure if you caught Johnny and Wayne's recap that they wanted to speak for me, saying that if Lauren win, my tattoo bet was back on. And I was like, they don't speak behalf of me. And they're like, well, I wish we would have known that. So now that I know that we're allowed to speak for other people, if Carson wins, Johnny will get a NASA tattoo on his neck. And if Carolyn wins, Wayne will get a tramp stamp. I feel pretty confident speaking for him.
Oh, that is hilarious. Oh, Wayne with a tramp stamp and Johnny with a neck tattoo that says NASA. That's fucking hilarious, dude. Oh,
I think that's what they need.
That is what they need. You've heard it here. It's on record. Man, I know. I feel that Carson is one of those players that before the season started, Carson was the person I think that was like going to make a bunch of like merch with like that. You got to shut the hell down. Like he was going to make like t-shirts and stuff, and CBS was kind of like put the kibosh on it. I think that was like public knowledge. And I was like, man, what a dumbass. Why would he, even though I made my own merch, got it right here, show and tell. So my tattoo artist drew this illustration of me at the time with my baby dread beard. It said Team Beard, and I had this screen printed on shirts, and um, and then I had another design as well. But it had nothing to do with Survivor. It was custom artwork that my bros did, and I sold shirts at my viewing parties just so people felt like they were part of something. It was really fun. And I used the money that I made from selling those to print more each and every week. So it just was something that like feeded itself. This was not a for profit endeavor. It just was something fun. So I feel like when people start trying to use the Survivor logos and stuff, CBS is like, "Ooh, red flag. We gotta shut this down." So I was like, "Man, this Carson guy is dumb." But I tell you what, he's young. What is he? 19 years old or something like that?
He's 19 or 20. I think he's 20.
Okay, he's 20. God, that's young. And we know that Jeff Probst loves his Cochran type players. He loves the nerd kind of guy that could win this game. So I feel that Probst is probably like rooting for a Carson win. But I tell you what,
Throwing out those Carson votes as they come in, be like, nah, revote. Never happened.
yeah, exactly. But I tell you what, as we've talked about, and you said it a minute ago, that season 44 is such a step above season 41, 42, 43. And I think it's because we're just letting the players play the game versus political agenda stuff. There's been no, to my knowledge, this season, any kind of like push of what's going on in the news and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like it just seems like CBS tried so hard to I don't know, touch on current events and stuff like that on the last few, that it was more about these uh event, you know what I'm saying? This is more just Survivor game.
So I think what you said is absolutely right. We're not getting, what's going on in the news. Let's try to stay relevant. Survivor makes its stance. And the other thing is sure to, the old school purists, there's still a lot of advantages out there. But guess what? We're not going back to no idols or one idol per season. Right. But if this is the way that they're going to do it, the advantages are dialed back. Like I personally liked that, okay, everyone got up to go scramble to look to find an idol, but it wasn't immediately found because it was played last night. We're seeing the players play the game, which is what most of us just want to see.
Yeah, that's exactly what we want to see. Because I want to take a break, and I said this before on the podcast. When I watch Survivor, the beauty of it is watching these people on a tropical island play this awesome game, the greatest game that's ever been created, the game of Survivor. We want to see these people from different walks of life play this game, period. And we're finally getting, wow, there's some good casting. And on top of that, they're just playing the freaking game and they're having a tough time. As you saw Jam Jam having the battle of heart versus what he thinks in his mind. And that's the ultimate dilemma all the time on Survivor. But let's start at the beginning. Dan Montchal. Carolyn says, Tribal was amazing. I didn't really need to play my idol, but I'm excited that Danny is gone. But here's the problem and the downfall right now. Carolyn starts telling too much information about her game and why she did this and why she did that. And, Jam Jam is like in a confessional, like, man, after her big speech and telling all this stuff, like she is a big threat. She spoke way too much about her game.
Agreed. The more she talked, the bigger her threat was. Like she didn't have to go into nearly as much detail as what she did. She could just be like, yeah, I found the idol early on, like it worked out. And I wanted to make sure that, my boys, Carson and Jam Jam were still here. So that's what I did. I didn't make this big strategical move. It was just, I wanted to make sure that, the two guys that I've been with this entire game were still here, or something short and concise like that. But her just explaining it and going into this, ravish detail is just.
Why do you think she did that? Why do you think she did that, Dan? Because we know that she has kind of portrayed herself as this dumb who is just like, I roll my eyes and I make these crazy faces. And I'm just, I don't know what's going on, but she's a strong player. Why did she play her cards this late in the game to these people?
My only guess is it's either A, she just can't help herself. Like when she gets talking about something, she just wants to explain it. Or B, someone had thrown it out there that was like, oh, Carolyn's just this crazy lady that doesn't know what she's doing. And she really wanted to make sure everyone knows, because if she assumes that, hey, me, Jam Jam, and Carson, like we're tight till the end, I want some people to be able to see, hey, like there's a method behind the madness.
Yeah, that's a good point. So she could be, hey, I am playing the game, and I'm going to tell you why at this point to garner some like
She just did
respect and
that
stuff like that.
bit too early.
Yes. So Jam Jam says, her target is getting bigger. Um, Jamie says in a confessional that she's like, good at like faking that she's just this dumb player. And then since Carolyn played the idol, everyone feels like maybe there's an idol back out there on the beach somewhere. So Heidi gets up at the ass crack of dawn, and we see Carson noticing that she's doing that. So he's kind of like, hey, look, Heidi's looking for an idol. Let's all go looking for idols to see if there's something out there back in play. Would I have loved to have seen someone find the idol? Yes. I thought maybe Carolyn's going to find it again. She does not. But props to Heidi for being like, look, even though I have a hidden immunity idol right now, I still would love to find another idol to keep me even more safe. That just shows you the paranoia of this 26-day game. There's not a lot of places to hide. And the more advantages that you have, the better, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, I think we're seeing Heidi be extremely paranoid because, I mean, we'll see at the end of the episode, she plays the idol, which I don't think there was
Bad
anything
move.
warranted to it. I think she's just so in her own head right now that the paranoia is getting to her a little bit.
Yeah, and I will say this. When Heidi plays her idol, I was like, man, this is premature. However, I would rather her play an idol prematurely than to go home with an idol in her bag. Because we see that we don't know what it's like being out there. There could be so much more stuff that they're or that they're kind of feeling in the game and in the moment to where she wanted to play her idol that they didn't show the viewer. So I can't hate her for playing it. However, I'm like, she had that idol, and I think at this late in the game, that might have been a bad move, especially when the Tika 3 are so strong.
I think that, and of course, we're seeing such a condensed version of what's really happening. Maybe there was something that happened or a conversation that rightfully did give her the paranoia. I think for me, it's just that little bit of adding on the cake. As we've seen Heidi this entire season, I know Alex Tree has talked about it a bunch, that she's playing a good game, but she keeps making these small mistakes. We've seen it, probably 4 or 5 times throughout the season so far.
Right.
That this is just another kind of example that maybe the editors threw in there without much cause, showing that Heidi's really good. She's a strong player, but she keeps making these, few decisions where her reads are off. And that's the reason why she may not ultimately win this game.
Yeah. And I definitely feel that the way the editing is going, I feel that as much as I think Lauren's cool, I don't think she has the edit to go with her game to justify a win. So I definitely think it's going to be one of the Tika 3 that wins this game for sure. And I honestly, I am so cool with one of the Tika 3 winning versus anyone that's won season 41, 42, or 43. No offense.
No one's hiding in plain sight.
Oh God. Yes. I'm not. Yeah. I golly, I told my doctor, or was it my dentist? One of my doctors or my dentist, I said, look, if Gabler wins this game, there's no way I will shave my beard if he wins this game. And of course he wins the game. I still can't get over the fact that he won the game. But anyways, so everyone's waking up. Lauren states in a confessional she's never seen a player like Carolyn before, which I don't think I have either. Um, and Lauren says Carolyn needs to go along, and work with Jam Jam and Carson. Like Carson wants to stay with Jam Jam and Carolyn, but we see that the other players are kind of like, hey, we want to, Carolyn to go. Um, but I think Carson really is truthful when he really stands by his word that he really wants to stay Tika strong. And this is not the time to vote out Carolyn. And he's playing along with Lauren and Jamie and Heidi's kind of idea of voting Carolyn. But at the end of the day, we know that he's just kind of a good liar, I guess, and not willing to make that choice to backstab Carolyn right now.
Yeah, and I'm happy with the way that it went, not just because I'm a Carolyn fan and happy she's there, but I feel like it is good that the Tika 3 stuck together because, I mentioned that they worked so hard to get this, work from the minority all the way to get into so they're in the majority. And I feel like in a lot of seasons past, we've seen that happen. And as soon as it gets to where they've worked themselves kind of like back to even, they're like, okay, great. Now it's time to go after each other. And it's just like, well, then why did you spend the past, 2 weeks out there scrapping and clawing to make sure that the three of you get there till you're finally in a good spot and then immediately cut bait? I don't disagree that maybe this next tribal, they should look at going after each other, but at least use the majority that's in your favor for once.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. That's what kind of we see. That's kind of the way that it's like as us who are fans of the show and do these podcasts and stuff, it's like that is the best move. Stay strong for now and just hold off just a little bit longer before you start really severing ties.
Say, because especially if you're Jam Jam there, that we've seen this in the past that, okay, we got to make the big move, go after. Why not, if Carolyn's there, let her be that big target? Because for a while it looked like Jam Jam was the big target of the three. Then maybe it was Carson. If now it's Carolyn, let her have that target for a little bit. Because how many times, especially in the past 10 seasons, have we seen someone takes the big move to get out the biggest threat, then immediately they're the new biggest threat and they go home right after because of what they did.
Now, do you think Carolyn has a snowball's chance in hell of winning?
I do. I think she does because they were speaking about it a little bit in tonight's episode that she's good with fire, or is at least practice fire a lot.
Yeah.
Which means all that she needs to do is survive one more tribal council. So I think she does if she gets there. I think maybe now she has a little bit more of an uphill battle to get there, but it's just one vote, whether it's, find some type of weird advantage that's possibly out there, because they love to do that at the final five now, or win a challenge, whatever it may be. Good social game. If she can survive one more vote, she has a shot.
Do you think that she beats Carson?
I think she does if they're both there. I understand that people are incredibly impressed with Carson, and rightfully so. For everything, I mean, if you just look at his story, and I'm not talking about the stuff that Johnny hates and we bag on for practicing the puzzles and memorizing that. I'm talking about how serious he took the game, that he put on this weight. You could tell that he got better socially as the game went along.
Yeah.
I think he's doing incredibly well, but I still think that it's inherent in a lot of people that they don't want to reward someone who's younger than them, especially like older people. Like they just don't like being, like that 20-year-old, like he just went out there and kicked my ass. I think people have a lot better way of rewarding someone like a Carolyn with her entire story that I think is a little bit stronger than Carson's. But I mean, that's just perception. I could be way off.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And the fact that, they know that she has a child, and not that everyone could use the money, but I feel that maybe their heartstrings are pulled a little more on, wow, Carolyn is drug counselor. She's overcome all this stuff and she has a kid, and that money could really help change the lives of that versus, Carson's so young. He's got a lot to learn and, runner-up is great anyways on Survivor, so you're gonna still win a big chunk of money, like whatever it is, like 100 grand or something like that. So, which
And
would still be
maybe,
huge.
yeah, maybe it's something with the editing, but just seeing jury reaction, like the jury looked pumped when she pulled out the idol last week. The jury, you could tell they were looking a little worried tonight that she could potentially be going home, as some of the comments were made. So if
Yes.
that's actually accurate and it's in time, their reactions to it, I think she has a lot of friends and people that are rooting for her on the jury.
Yes, I agree. So we go to the reward challenge. The reward challenge is a trip to the sanctuary with a massage and a bunch of food. And this challenge is like you got these big, like I call them orbs,
Mhm.
and Carson and Jamie are kind of inside these big balls, and you have blindfolded people, and you have to go through like a course, and then do some sort of table labyrinth style maze, and uh,
Yeah, it's
Car-
not a Survivor classic, but we've seen this a bunch of times. I mean, this is the one that Russell Swans passed out on when he was medevaced out of Samoa, and we've seen it a handful of times over the past. I think we even saw it last season.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great. I mean, we see a moment where Carolyn is so funny because she's just completely not even near the ball, and just kind of out in left field. I immediately was like, when I saw Carson getting to the end of the challenge where he's calling the shots on how to guide um, his team on winning this like table labyrinth style deal. I was like, Carson's got this. No questions asked.
I thought the same thing. My only concern was, and ended up not being an issue because he could still clearly see the table, is we've seen it in the past that once they get there, they kind of have to maneuver that orb so that they're straight up. And he was kind of laying off to the side. But I mean, that's the same way Jamie was too when they finally got there. So it apparently
Yes.
didn't matter at all.
And he was really calm. He was really focused and not getting overwhelmed and like freaking out. He was giving simple, guided instruction of how to move the ball from point A to point B. And he wins this table maze. Carson dominated. Is Jam, Carson, and Lauren. And this is the sanctuary time where it's Jam's first reward like this. And he is like so happy to have some food. And happy to have this like foot and leg massage, which would be awesome. And speaking of foot and leg massages, Johnny Fairplay social media, he just got Botox. Dan and I get the inside scoop as it's happening. Or my phone when I'm at work will like be like beep beep, and I look and it's like Fairplay getting like needle injections in his face for Botox. Look, I never in a million years have I considered, thought about, cared about Botox, plastic surgery, fake stuff, all in the name of beauty. I could care less. Me, I'm like, dude, I hope my beard grows long. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
come on, Matt. You're married, have a smoking hot wife, a good family. Like, you don't need it. You're good.
I don't need Botox. Do I have wrinkles? Yeah, sure. I'm fucking 49 years old, dude, but I don't give a fuck. But Johnny Fairplay, I mean, he's going to be on TV very soon again, and so he wants to, just Johnny's doing Johnny. And if you want to see behind the scenes shit that you've never seen before, become a patron. It's the best way to support our podcast. Realitypatron.com. We do a weekly Q&A. And Johnny will give you the inside scoop of all kinds of shit. Stuff he shouldn't talk about, he talks about. And you guys, the patrons and girls, you ask the questions that you want to hear. Excuse me, we answer them. It's our most fun podcast that we do each and every week. There's a secret Facebook group, but realitypatron.com. If you don't like it, join for a month and cancel the next. Johnny will give you your money back. But we have a beautiful, beautiful fan base and patrons. And some of the patrons have even become part of this podcast. So it's really killer. And yeah, just like you, Dan, go ahead.
I was going to say, and I'll plug, Johnny's last viewing party, because his final viewing party for the finale next week. It's the town I live in, Charlotte, North Carolina. It's going to be Johnny, Sandra, the Queen, as well as a few other guests. You can get that at survivortix.com. I will be there. Wayne will be there probably, as well as a few other, surprise former contestants. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited that it's in the town that I live in. And for me, it these viewing parties, it takes me back to where it started, because sure, people know Johnny, they recognize Matt because he was on Survivor. So you look, why am I here? I'm here because I saw that Johnny was having a viewing party. I think this was back in 2019, 2020. I was like, screw it. I bought tickets. I went, ended up joining the patron group, and then now I'm here. I can't promise that's going to happen for everyone out there, but that's kind of just how I ended up in this community. So the viewing party, the patron group, it's incredibly important to me, because it kind of got me talking with you every week and part of this community, and it's something that's been it's been awesome the last few years.
Yeah, it's badass, and all through COVID and stuff, when everyone was like just having a really crazy time, we were able to have this community of people to talk through stuff and laugh and enjoy the shows that we all love and not be so down and out. So I love all of our patrons. So yeah, realitypatron.com. And yes, if you are anywhere near where Dan just said for the
Charlotte,
finale,
North Carolina, Lenny Boy Brewing.
Yes, go to that viewing party. It will be killer. So we see here this sanctuary, Jam Jam. They're all getting their legs and their foot massaged by these Fijian women, and God, that would feel so good. And the food and everything about this reward. Now, I will say that I'm shocked. Like, we have not really seen the look for idols or clues at this reward. Like when we watch Australian Survivor, for example, anytime there's a reward, people are going and trying to really go deep and try to find some sort of clue or idol or something like that. We're not seeing that. Now, I don't know if production has idols or any kind of advantage at these rewards and the players just aren't finding them, or if they're just letting the people just enjoy these rewards and not have something hidden there. But I'm kind of a little shocked that we don't see some sort of footage of them like lifting things up and kind of searching around this late in the game for some sort of idol or something.
Yeah, you'd think that you definitely see more of it. And Matt, a question for you. I can't remember back to Caramoan. Did you get to go on any rewards while you were there?
Dude, no.
I didn't.
I won one challenge. It was a first immunity challenge when Francesca actually went home because like the fans won immunity, but I did not win another challenge the rest of the entire fucking time. So like that sucked. However, I will say that when they did the tribe swap and we went over to the Bacall Beach, they had won a reward previously of some like vegetables and like mustard and like barbecue sauce and something else. And dude, I remember like being like, holy shit, I can take this like squeeze bottle of barbecue sauce and put it on a piece of like coconut and just like eat it with flavor on it. It was so good. But as I was squirting out barbecue sauce, there's like fucking ants and shit all over it. But you just didn't give a fuck because it was like you haven't tasted anything with flavor for like 2 weeks. So, but I was never fortunate enough to go on a reward. However, if I had, I would have been looking for idols, advantages, etc. Yeah, they're excited. Jam Jam is pumped that he's at a reward finally. And but he even says, even though this is relaxing, I really want to do some strategizing, and is now the time to kind of make a move. And they Carson even says Carolyn is a huge threat, and Carson is saying this, but even though he's telling Lauren he potentially wants to get Carolyn out, he's really not wanting to work with Lauren right here.
Yeah, that was my, perception of this entire episode was both Jam Jam and Carson were telling everyone else, hey, we're willing to vote out Carolyn. Now, I don't think in Carson's mind he ever had any thought of actually voting her out, where this is where we kind of start to see the storyline for the rest of the episode. The Jam Jam is.
Yeah, right. Jam Jam is really kind of battling, but yeah, Carson 100% is locked in with Carolyn, sticking with her. So Carolyn or Carson wants Jamie gone. So we see this battle of kind of like, is Jam Jam gonna vote Carolyn? Because Carson obviously is not going to want to do that at this point. Do I think Carson would potentially vote for Carolyn moving forward? Maybe, because yes, he's young, but he's also pretty smart. However, we've seen time and time again in confessionals and during strategic moments, Carson, I truly feel that he thinks that he can beat Carolyn no matter what.
I think he feels that way as well. And I also think that if you're Carson, it's smarter because if you take out Carolyn now, I think she's a complete wild card on the jury. Does she respect it when she has time to reflect on it? Does she completely go bitter juror and, burn Carson down for everything that he did? But if it waits as if it's on, the next week or the next travel or the following one, it's a lot easier to explain to me like, hey, Carolyn, I didn't turn on you. There was nothing I could do. It's just the way, whether that's true or not, if he had a hand in it or not, he could at least say, Carolyn, you were going no matter what. I'm sorry, but I had to make sure that I stayed in the numbers.
Yeah, totally. So as we see everyone at the sanctuary reward, we see the three losers go back to camp. And Carolyn says she still needs her numbers. She knows she needs Carson for one more vote. And then when the players that were on the sanctuary reward come back, Jam Jam had eaten this big feast, and one of the most disturbing and funny comments is when Carolyn says, "Will you burp in my face, please?" So Jam Jam burps in Carolyn's face just so she can get. This is how desperate you are when you are so starved, and they just went on a reward. You're just wanting some sort of feeling of food, and I guess that was Carolyn's way of getting Jam Jam to like belch in her face to smell whatever it was. Now I think it was kind of a regretful moment, like it's like, hey, do this, but then once you do it, they're like, that's kind of gross. I probably shouldn't have had them do that.
Yeah, it's disgusting, but I've never been on an island and been that hungry, so my opinion doesn't matter.
But dude, I've been on an island starved. I wouldn't want someone that just went on a ribeye steak reward and beer to burp in my face. I just would. This just shows the quirkiness and hilariousness of how interesting and unique that Carolyn is as a character and as a player in this game. So Carolyn's talking to Carson, telling him the deal. Jam Jam tells Jamie they need to vote Carolyn out. So we're seeing this back and forth of, is Jam Jam going to turn on Carolyn right now? He's definitely showing this battle when he's at camp and kind of talking to these other players. So in my mind at this point in the show, I'm like, dude, I think he might pull the trigger. I think it is premature, but could Jam Jam do it? Maybe, so I was getting a little nervous here right before this immunity challenge that they do. And the immunity challenge is simple. This is just like a very iconic individual challenge where you have like a ball balanced on this little disc with kind of ropes everywhere that's balancing it, and it's the last person standing with the ball on their little platform is the winner. And people kind of are dropping like flies on this challenge.
No, 4 of them didn't make it 5 minutes
Yeah, that's pretty
before they
sad.
went back.
Yeah,
That's terrible.
it is terrible. Do you think other seasons like? Do you think earlier seasons players would have gone a lot longer? Like, what is the deal with current cast members of like
I
doing
I
shitty?
I do. I don't know exactly what it is. If maybe we've switched to that it's outside of like I'd say Jonathan, and even I'll give credit to Lindsay in that same season that were like challenge beasts. Like, in 42, it was one of the two of them that were winning almost all of the challenges. We haven't really seen that outside of those two in these 4 new era seasons. So I don't know exactly what it is, if they're changing up some of the rules where to make it difficult so they're not out there as long. But for me, I don't know why they don't want some of these long, intense, grueling challenges, because it's given us, some great moments. Like I still think back to like Palau. Sure, it
Oh,
probably sucked for Jeff, but Tom and Ian being out on that buoy for almost 12 hours, like it's things like that, these long, intense challenges that you remember. I mean, even in more recent seasons, you think of like Christian, who was on there and just talking for hours. He outlasted Alex and David versus Goliath. I don't
yeah.
know why they want these to be shorter, just because you get some really iconic moments that are remembered forever in these challenges that go on and on and on.
I agree. I agree. These players are definitely not challenge beasts. But we see Lauren end up winning this challenge. She is excited. So she wins. And then back at camp, we see that Carolyn obviously wants Jamie. And Jamie and Lauren are talking about wanting Carolyn. And then we see Jam Jam is kind of mentioning, oh, maybe I should vote out Carolyn now. Is this the right time? My heart says this, but my mind says this. And you know, Carson even says in a confessional that Carolyn can win this game. Um, but Carson's gut says vote out Jamie.
So I know you didn't get to experience this, but this is someone that he's been with the entire time. It's Jam Jam. Carolyn's pretty much been his number one ally, despite some of the rocky roads. Do you think if you progressed in Caramoan, would you have been able to vote out Michael Snow?
I had considered that scenario. I feel that there would have been a real period of time where I would have been very conflicted on whether to do that. I think Michael Snow is very smart. I loved Michael Snow, and I feel like when Jam Jam is on here saying like, "Man, you develop really close bonds with these people." However, at the end of the day, if I felt that Michael could have beaten me in the end, I was there to win $1 million for my family and my kids at the time. They were little. I was like, I'm playing for them. I feel like I would have done whatever I had to do that. And I feel that Michael would have respected me for that. If he was on the jury now, because he's voted out, I feel like he would have still voted for me. I don't think Michael would have had a bitter bone in his body. But it's hard to say. I mean, I've thought of that scenario before. And here's the thing with production and stuff like that. Like people always say, like, is Survivor scripted? Or it's like, no, it's not scripted. However, there are producers that will take you for these confessionals, and they'll be like, hey, let's go for a walk, Matt. And you go down some trail and you're like sitting in a tree where you're doing your confessional. And the producer might be like, hey, so Matt, you and Michael are pretty tight. Have you ever thought about, Michael backstabbing you down the road? Like, do you think you should maybe get him out? And you're like, shit, I never really thought about that. Yeah. So it's like producers can make you paranoid of how you answer their questions and confessionals. So like you got to be really careful when you're out there playing the game, because it is a total mind fuck, because you're thinking of what all the scenarios are going down, and then you're getting pulled away to do confessionals, and you're talking about the game, and then you're like literally thinking about different options, right? Could Michael beat me? Maybe I do need to vote him out. So it would be very hard. I love Michael Snow, and God, Karen Moen, boy, I just wish it would have played out differently, but it is a conflicting thing. You make real, true bonds with people, and you're like, how can they get all upset or make bonds this quickly? It's something that you've never experienced before. Very few people have experienced what being on Survivor and creating these relationships and playing this game is like. Very few. In the grand scheme of things, dude, there's only been like 500 or 600 fucking people to ever do it.
Yeah,
so
well,
like it's.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut. But I want to say it's not like it's not the same as being on Survivor, because obviously it's drastically different. But like for a lot of people, not everyone, but I think most people have been in an experience where they've gone to, like, even as like kids or younger, they went to a summer camp or they went to college, that when you're spending that much time, like I remember, my first week of college or whatever, I was like, oh, this is my best friend. Like I've known him for, 2 weeks, but we do everything together. And it's that much more enhanced on Survivor, because you're not going to class, you're not having any downtime. Like you're with these people 24/7. So while I think a lot of people can't fully understand what you went through and all the, other Survivor players have went through, they've been in some situations where in a short period of time, they've been with new people and created bonds very quickly, because that's who you're spending most of your time with. So I think that's really, it's really shitty when Survivor fans are like, I don't understand that. But like, come on, like it's not that hard.
It is. It's crazy. I mean, Jam Jam's dilemma here is, look, I know that Carolyn can beat me. I know that I got to vote her out here at some point if Jam Jam wants to win this game. But is now the time? Is it not the time? But yeah, he's conflicted. And we go right into tribal council. And Lauren, they brought all the stuff from camp, their paintbrushes, their rice, all the stuff, because they don't know what's going to happen, right? Because earlier in the season, we saw Matt not bring in his stuff when, with Franny and all that kind of jazz. He was stupid, didn't bring his bag. So they're learning from their mistakes. One of the things Jamie says here at Tribal Council, which I know Johnny Fairplay, if you watch him and Wayne do their recap on Friday, is the word resume. Yeah,
yep, that's what I was going
to ask. Jamie says
resume.
This is all about jazzing up your resume. And if that's not enough statement to get your ass voted out, I don't know what it is, because the word resume, Johnny Fairplay hates that, despises it. And Jam Jam, says, look, this game is emotional. We spent 23 days living together. It's hard. And then Carolyn gives this big speech that's beautiful. It's really touching and cool. And then she's like, well, wait a second. Am I giving my kind of like exit speech right now? Is this like the end of my game? And I have my head in my hand. I'm like tearing up, because I'm like, please, Carolyn, don't go. Oh my God, the way this edit is gone. She's going.
It was right there when she said that where I finally turned. I was like, oh no, like it's her.
Yeah, I was like, she's gone. She's gone. And it kept showing her facial expression looking over at Jam Jam. And you're just like, oh no, she's completely vulnerable. She is totally screwed. And then we see a clip of Jam Jam at Tribal saying, look, the person leaving tonight is what's best for everyone's game moving forward. And I was like, well, wait a second. I mean, Caroline going out would be good for everyone's game because she's a huge threat to win the game, right? But at the end of the day, we go to the vote. Heidi ends up playing her immunity idol like a dum dum. No offense, but you just wasted your idol. We saw you like you're earlier in the episode saying, "I really want to find another idol so I can have two." Well, now Heidi, you have none, and now people know that you were smart enough to have an idol and hide it from people. So I think you're going to be a big target, even more so over Lauren if the Tika three stay strong. I think by Heidi playing her idol, that was a really bad move. Um, the votes are red. Jamie goes home. Carolyn is safe, thank God. I am literally on cloud nine that Carolyn is safe. The Tika three stays strong. The storyline stays intact. How do you think this is going to play out, Dan Montchal, going into the finale?
Well, the one thing that was there is once it was over, she does look over at Jam Jam and Carson and say, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that. You kind of mentioned that they brought all their stuff together, or all their stuff, because they're prepping for it. I think that's another reason of why Survivor, you don't need to introduce all these changes, but don't have stuff like this where people are prepping for doing the same thing over and over again for a new camp. I would have liked to see people not be able to prepare for that. But as far as where it's going, I think now when we're getting to the final five, it really is going to be a showdown of the Tika three. I think at this point, it's kind of, hey, we got here, we got to this last stage of the game, episode wise anyway. And now we don't have to work together. We have to do what's best for us moving forward. And I think between, Jam Jam, Carson, and Carolyn, they're all willing to make a move. I think it's at this point, if you're those three, who's going to make the biggest move that's going to differentiate them from the rest?
Yeah, right. I agree. I think it could be anyone's game. I mean, Carson, I know, is really thinking he could beat Carolyn or Jam Jam at this point in time. I know someone in the chat earlier said, Jam Jam is going to be one of those like finalists that receives no votes.
I don't believe that.
So I feel that this season is going to play out. I feel that Matt Bischoff is going to be more satisfied with the ending of Survivor 44 than I have been with the last three seasons. Erica and Gabler and Marianne, all great people, I'm sure, but just the seasons, I was just like, I just really wasn't into them.
I've predicted it before, I think, over the past few seasons, and have been wrong every single time. But, we're going to try it again. That I'd like to think that there was a scene that was left in there for something. I think someone's last final move to knock one of those Tika three out of the game for the final four, I think is going to be Heidi, because all the way back in episode 1, she was the one that started the fire for Soka at the time. And I think that she's going to knock a potential winner out at final four, and we'll see who's left.
Well, there you have it. I love it. Dan Montchal, thank you very much. This is one of last week's episode. I loved this episode, the penultimate episode. I can't wait for the finale. Can't wait to see how this plays out. And Johnny Fairplay will be doing a viewing party. And you will be there along with Wayne Mehmet. A lot of people, guest survivor, Sandra Diaz Twine. You can get ticks now at survivortix.com. That's survivortix.com. Join Johnny Fairplay next week for the Survivor finale, and join us here. Me and Alex will be holding down the fort for the finale coverage. And like I said, if you want to see Johnny's take on these episodes, since he is at the viewing party, he will be doing a podcast with Wayne Mehmet that drops on Friday. So definitely check that out. And loving this season so far. I'm real enthusiastic about it, and really been entertained and enjoy the season. So if anyone on season 44 is listening to our podcast, we love you all, no matter how we bust your balls, etc. on the podcast. We can't wait to meet you at a future event. You're all part of this gorgeous Survivor community. And the Survivor community is not only former cast, but the fans are what makes this so awesome. The friendships I've created. And as Dan said, being a patron turned podcast host, it's never say never. So we love you. And we will see you all next week for the Survivor 44 finale. Cheers, everybody. And good night, everyone.